Okay, my topic is old school leadership versus new age leadership. We're going to look at three things in my topic: new age leadership, or leadership for the new age, if you like. We're going to look at level 5 leadership, which is a Jim Collins concept, and we're going to look at grit. Let's kick off with new age leadership, and we start with a basic question. What is leadership? Am I a leader, even by this definition? And if so, am I a good leader? I've been a leader for so long. Why is this not good enough anymore? I like what Catherine Adeline says in her blog, Leadership New Age versus Old School. She says, for me, leadership means that you have the proven capability to take groups of people and make them greater collectively than they are individually. It also means that you have the ability to inspire others to achieve more than they would have without your guidance. So, am I a natural born leader? We often feel that to be a leader, you need to be a born leader and or be drawn to leadership or have a leaderly position. We think of leadership as a title that has to be deserved or earned, but leaders are rarely, if ever, born. If I had to isolate a factor that really creates leaders, it's probably some combination of circumstance and persistence. So persistence, remember that word, it comes up later as grit. Most of us are followers, and then we are forced into leadership by chance to then discover, oh, I can actually be good at it. So many leaders walk amongst us in all kinds of people, places, and positions, and some of the greatest leaders you'll ever meet aren't even aware of their own leadership. So what does leadership look like? And you can check yourself. You typically have an open mind and you seek out other people's opinions. I forgot your name. Was it Mike who said you can always learn from other people? So you're seeking out other people's opinions. Your friends often ask you for counsel. People seem to seek you out and they value what you say. You probably have high empathy and your perspective is a real world usefulness to those around you. You often also help those around you navigate their rough patches. And if you find that resonates with you, then you're a leader. Also, people can count on you. If people rely on you, it follows that they trust you to follow through. You're the type of person to deliver on your promises. And if you hold yourself accountable and demonstrate the kind of day in, day out responsibility that leads others to trust you, then you're a leader. Leaders are also good listeners and people confide in you. Being able to listen to others and having people speak to you frankly without worrying about what you'll tell or how you might use that knowledge against them are signs of strong leadership as well. If you understand what we said, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. If you understand that listening is more important than speaking, and if people know they can confide in you, then you're probably a leader. If you find that others follow your example, if leaders tend to have a positive attitude, they are very optimistic people. They say that make people happy around them, but that's probably they look at things in a very optimistic or a very positive way. They often seek out the good in almost every situation. There's always that little bit of a silver lining. It's that kind of spirit that keeps people motivated and spread optimism. And if you like that, if you find you have that tendency, then you're probably a leader. You treat people with respect. Knowledge often gives you power, and being the smart guy gives you an advantage. But when you give respect, you will also receive respect in return. And I have a big thing about respect. Everybody deserves respect. Everybody. If you are the petrol attendant or you are the CEO or you count the pencils, everybody deserves respect. Respect isn't earned. That's trust. Trust is earned. Respect is a given. So we always start out with respecting everybody. You genuinely care about others. You spend time supporting them and guiding them and sharing your knowledge. You care about their well-being. That's a sign of leadership. You're confident and passionate. Most people are always watching each other, looking for cues about how to behave. And being confident means moving with assurance and being passionate about what you believe in and refusing to let anything get in your way. If you work consistently towards a cause with vision and confidence, then that is an aspect of a leader. So you can weigh yourself against these traits and reconsider what you think you know and recognize yourself for the leader you may really be. Okay, so you might look at these and think, I can tick a lot of these boxes. I am more leadery than I thought. Okay, so let's look at how the world has changed. So a new way of working has emerged because of the digital transformation. Yes, also because of the pandemic. The pandemic fast-tracked it, but really digital transformation happened and the world changed. The pandemic fast-tracked it. Just think of how we work today compared to how we worked in the past. I wonder how many of you are sitting at home right now. So people are working remotely, often from home. We now work in self-managed teams, and we take responsibility to get the job done, and we need little supervision. We really nowadays operate with autonomy. You'll recognize that we now have fluid, cross-functional teams that assemble around a specific project. I don't know to what extent you experience it, but it's very evident for me in the work environment that I am, that suddenly somebody comes up with an idea and we pull 4 or 5 people together from different divisions, and we have this team who's going to now work on this new idea. Advances in communication has also enabled global virtual teams. So in fact, one of our team members work from France. So some of your team members might be in a different country and in a different time zone altogether, and that wouldn't have been possible or nearly as easily possible as easily 10 years ago. We're also more inclined to collaborate across reporting lines and functions. So you'll probably have some of your team might be on operations, some might be on finance, and some might be from marketing, and they're all on one project. And 10, 20 years ago, that wasn't so much the case. The key thing to note, what has changed, is where the power lies. It's quite interesting. We see it in all countries and in governments, and we see it in our workplaces. We now share power. We have servant leadership. We used to have dominant leadership. Now we have servant leadership. And things are just way more democratized than ever before. I think I speak about it later as well, but it's the democratizing of power and the democratizing of leadership. Is it quite odd that now anybody can be a leader? I can walk into a room and I'm the CEO, but it's on somebody else's project. And in that time, that person is the leader in the room and not me. And 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it would be unthinkable. So this is what the world looks like now. So we can compare it, if I can cast your mind back to the previous place where I worked. Yeah, I'm the little guy with the red tie. Previously, in my previous life, we worked in silos and there was a corporate hierarchy, and my manager made all the decisions. And he had a fixed group of people reporting to him, and the group wasn't fluid. There was absolute authority, and we needed the leader's approval for every action. So the power was held at the top of that pyramid. There was total dominance of power, also over information, which was also kept from others. It was very secretive. It was a secretive autocratic environment. And that type of environment we now refer to as command and control structures. Now, we didn't know back then. It was the only way we knew it. It was just what it was. So we taught leaders those skills. We taught them to go in and command a room. We taught them how to delegate tasks, but not the power. So can you see how a new age of working demands a new leader? And we often refer to that as the informal leader. Okay. So we all agree new age leadership is important. We understand why. And the top skills in the lead up to 2025 include analytical thinking and innovation and complex problem solving and new age leadership and social influence. So did you know, on an aside, that at Google, they've identified the top 8 behaviors or competencies they need from their managers? Your technical ability, your ability to do your job, rates amongst the top 8. 5 of the top 6 relate to your relationship between manager and the team. So, are you a good coach? Can you empower your team? Can you help, or do you have evidence of having helped team members develop? Are you a good communicator? Are you expressing an interest in the success and well-being of those on your team? And isn't that interesting? That's in the top 5 of their 6 competencies they're looking for at Google for their leaders and their managers. So we start to see a picture emerge of the new leader we need. You want somebody who can focus on innovation and not getting the job done, because these autonomous teams will just get the job done. Your job is to find new ways of getting the job done better and faster. And my personal favorite, gone are the days when only managers could be leaders. We see leaders emerge at all levels of the organization. Leadership has been democratized. It now belongs to the people. And it's always interesting for me how we see that reflected back in governments around the world. So the power is literally now with the people. And the new leaders, you, me, we empower others. And we've decentralized decision making. You don't need to bring everything to me anymore to make the decision. I will empower you. I don't need to hang onto that power anymore. The new leader, instead of power, has empathy and an appetite for continuous learning, exactly what you're doing now, attending this course. They also say leaders are readers. I love reading these business books, and often I find these gems, and this is then also what I want to share today. If you're finding this session very interesting, then know that it comes from a variety of business books we've read and articles. And you can also read these in your own time. If I talk about level 5 leadership, you think, oh, that's interesting, go read that. If I talk about, I forgot his name for a moment, but about grit, then, I don't remember, then go read up on grit. The final and very important characteristic of the new leader is mental strength. So, the past 2 years we've got, now you believe that the leader needs mental strength for themselves and for their team. It's resilience, the ability to deal with uncertainty and change. And as a leader, also to develop others to help them deal with it too. Resilience is so important. The pandemic has helped us to realize that we don't know the answer to everything. I sometimes think we don't know the answer to anything. And therefore, we just have to admit, I don't know. People might come to you, if you're in finance, they might come to you and say, what's going to be the impact of this? And the truth is, we just don't know. And to cope with high levels of uncertainty in which we operate, we just have to let people feel empowered and also show that there's a certain support mechanism for people and really help them embrace a certain amount of resilience. And that's physical resilience and mental resilience and social resilience. And that's not easy because people deal with things in different ways. But I think if you have empathy as a leader, and empathy is like thinking beyond yourself, thinking about the other people, it's probably one of the greatest qualities that you can get. And unfortunately, that's not taught in many books. I think that especially in today's circumstances in which we're working virtually, we need to adapt to this new world as fast as possible. So I'm very glad that you are on this course to unpick this a bit. I wonder if you wanted to pick 1 or 2 characteristics from this list which you wanted to develop and embrace this year. I'll give you a moment and see. I'm hoping you can You can chat to me. Let me see. Get back into the chat. Yeah, chat. Let's see who says what. Nondemisa says, will we be able to view the recording after the session? Yes. Are we going to be provided with a presentation? No. Will there be certificates sent for attending the course? Sure, you can mail us and we'll send it to you. Nondemiso says, I'm here because I've been an assistant director for 8 years. I've done people management and leadership, and it was in 2015. So I want to refresh myself on leadership skills, as my next position will be deputy director or director. That's fantastic. So guys, okay, Jillian says, my innovation and my mental strength. Otatsu says, Craig, sorry, I missed that now. There you've moved on. R. Cronier says, collaborative. Empowering and mental strength. Excellent. So I don't know if any of you play golf, well, it's just true for any business goals, I imagine. Just pick two things, guys. Write it down somewhere. So I am going to, and then measure yourself every week. What have I done this week to enable me to grow the innovation side of me? Okay. Let's carry on. Let's see. My next topic. Okay, so that was the whole section about new age leadership, and I hope you found it interesting. There's not much more to say on it apart from we need new leaders, and we all feel that shift in power, the more flexibility, the responsibility beyond yourself, the need for resilience, the democratizing of information and power, and that anybody can now be the leader. That is the new world in which we operate. Okay. We have thus discussed what makes a new leader. I personally cannot talk about leadership without talking about grit and without talking about level 5 leadership. Are any of you familiar with level 5 leadership? It is a concept developed by Jim Collins in his classic book, Good to Great. If you read one business book, read Good to Great. Okay. What they did is, over a period of 40 years, they analyzed almost 1,500 companies to find which companies had been good for a long time, and then suddenly they transformed into a great company. And from that 1,435 companies that they analyzed for 40 years, they found that 11 of them went from just being good to consistently great. And those 11 all at the same type of leader. If you want to go from good to great, this is now that you must pay attention. It's not Richard Branson or Elon Musk that makes the difference. It's somebody like Darwin Smith. Have you heard of Darwin Smith? Nobody has. It's those people. He turned Kimberly Clark around. It's amazing stories. It's the people you don't know who transformed organizations. I recognize that you may not be the CEO or the MD or at the top of any chain of command or food chain, and maybe not responsible for the greatness of your organization. So that's fair. But remember, you can be a leader at any level. And looking at the level 1 to 5 leader description, you can see where are you and how can you improve your own leadership ability. So maybe you're not going to transform the company, but you can transform your team. So as I said, at the 11 great companies, they found that they're all at the same type of leader. He named this type of leader the level 5 leader. So you can try and, I'll describe each one briefly, and you can try and see where you fit yourself. Let's see if I can draw, because I love drawing so much, and it will also stay with you a little bit longer. Okay, so your level 1 leader, this is the person, your level 1 leader is a highly capable individual. These are people who contribute using their skills, their know-how, and they've got very good work habits. They are good at what they do, and they contribute by doing their job really well. Number 2, so you've got all these, this is going somewhere, all these highly capable individuals. Okay, number 2, leadership level 2. You now are contributing team member, with the emphasis on team. The next level of leadership is this contributing team member. These are people who are able to use their skills and knowledge to help their team succeed. Oh, now you're just not thinking of yourself, you're thinking of your team. They are good at what they do and contribute to the success of the team. Level 3 leadership is the competent manager. These are managers that are capable of organizing their team to efficiently reach predetermined objectives. So this person says, listen, here are my objectives. Okay, we're going to meet these goals. I can set objectives for this team, and then I am considered to be a level 3 manager. A level 3 leadership style. Level 4 leadership is the effective leader. This is the penultimate level of leadership. It's the level at which the majority of leaders can be found. They are able to create a commitment to pursue a clear and compelling vision. So here is the company vision. What was the vision for Coca-Cola? Ice cold Coke in arm's length of everybody in the world. So I'm not talking about objectives anymore. I'm now talking about a vision. So when you're a level 4 leadership, you can inspire a group to follow a vision. And then what is level 5? And you will be, I was so grateful when I found this out. Level 5 leadership is when you have all of the abilities needed for the other 4 levels, plus you have 2 other things. Humility and sheer will. And that requires, those are the things that are required for true greatness. You can also note that you don't, I'll talk about that a little bit now, you don't need to move sequentially through the other 4 levels to become a level 5 leader. Level 5 leaders just often have the ability of the other 4 levels, plus a unique combination of being strong-willed. You are so determined, yet you are very humble. So myself as a leader, I always felt not big enough, don't have a big enough presence. And then I learned about level 5 leadership, and I realized, oh, it's not the people with the big presence, the bigger than life. It's these quiet people that work in the corner with such sheer determination and humbleness, and those are the true leaders. It's a combination of will and humility that makes you a great leader. It also sets you apart from all the other levels of leadership. And in those 11 companies that went from good to great, it was these humble leaders that took the organizations to the next level. Okay, ponder upon that a bit while I wrap this out. Sorry, it's my phone. Let's see, can I get to my mouse? Okay. So I'll tell you a little bit about the behaviors of the level 5 leadership. There is ambition, but that ambition is for the organization to excel rather than themselves. I keep on wanting to refer back to Trump, not because I want to do politics, but I'm happening to be watching a documentary about him now, and I see all the things he did. He would ask somebody to fix the ice skating rink in Central Park, and he said to the guy, you will get so much publicity from it. But when push came to shove, he didn't give the guy publicity. He just said he did it himself. So his ambition is for himself and not for the organization. So level 5 leader, despite your ambition, you're also modest about what you personally contribute. You in a modern culture, we think of great leaders as being larger than life personalities, but it's really not. It's these humble people with very strong ambition. They're fanatically driven to produce exceptional results on a sustainable basis. And the key word here is sustainable. Their drive isn't short-lived, and neither are the results they seek. And the reason for that is that once they move on, they want the results to continue. They don't want to set up their successor to fail, which a lot of other leaders would do, because then imagine how well it looks, how good they look. Oh, the results were only so good under me. You see, when I leave, the results go down again, because it's not about them. They build successes to be even more successful than they are. They share the praise amongst the team when things go well, and when there's somebody to blame, they happily take the blame when things go wrong. They share the praise and take the blame, and when they do that, they make their team extremely loyal and committed to them. They are normal people. They never have larger than life personalities, nor are they celebrities. And it's interesting, they often come from within the organization because their greatness comes from quiet, hard work rather than once-off acts of heroism. Okay, so as succinct as I can be, we can define the definition of level 5 leadership as being a highly capable individual who's contributing as a team member, who's a competent manager, an effective leader, and has strong will and humility. Right, so I said I will give you some practical tools. So how to become a level 5 leader? You need to develop your professional skills and your emotional intelligence. And one of the ways you can do this is just to develop your humility. It's good to be ambitious. It's good to be ambitious. But it's better to be ambitious yet humble. Okay. You can develop your humility by developing your emotional intelligence, which will make you a more well-rounded leader. And then I always say you can't be a leader if you don't have followers. Level 5 leaders have followers who are committed and deeply loyal. And to develop that loyalty in your team, you can take responsibility when things don't go to plan, and you can blame yourself as the leader, because in the end of the day, it's always you. Level 5 leaders never blame others when things don't go to plan. And when you do that, your team will see you've got their backs and they will become deeply loyal. The next thing you can do is they could call it reward power. When things go to plan, deflect attention from yourself and give the praise to the team. Reward power is actually a tool you can use which help you do this in a way that motivates your entire team. You can recruit from within. It's difficult to find level 5 leaders from outside the organization. That they typically tend to be level 4 leaders, people who shout about their own successes. Level 5 leaders typically reach their positions through quiet hard work. It doesn't mean if you employ somebody from outside that they cannot be a level 5 leader. I just want to point that out. It is just not that common. Level 5 leaders are exceptionally driven to achieve results. It's because they enjoy the challenge. And so what you can do is to set a clear challenge for yourself and a clear goal. So one of the goals was Rico, who said, I want to focus on empowering and on mental strength. Now, change that into a measurable goal and go for that, because that is how you develop your drive. There's one other thing I wanted to say is the old adage of hire slow and fire fast. If you have a problem with a team member, then you will act quickly to rectify the problem, even if it means moving that team member on. So it's having that drive to do what it takes. And then lead with passion. I have a colleague who doesn't really like this point because, what does she call it? Passion is unbridled. It's like emotions. You're not in control of your emotions. But okay, so just let in, develop your humility, work on your followers, and take active steps to develop your drive. Let's just see. So humility and will. It's a term introduced by Jim Collins in the book Good to Great. I mentioned that I think it is a must read. And these two characteristics might seem in contradiction to each other, but they're not. Willpower allows level 5 leaders to push for consistent success. The success they aim for is the organization's success and not their own. And because of this, it allows them to be humble about their own abilities and achievements. I just want to come back to one point. I don't know if I missed it or it's still coming up, but that whole thing about how do you develop level 5 leadership and is to set yourself goals. It is coincidentally why you find a lot of level 5 leaders are marathon runners, or they do, I don't know, like really dangerous sports, because they like to set goals and push themselves. Okay, so this was my section on level 5 leadership. I hope you found it interesting. We've got about 40 minutes left. I'm hoping to be done in, 20 minutes left. I'm hoping to be done in 10. My last section is one of my favorite, and that is grit. Okay. I have to acknowledge Bill Hybels. He taught me all about grit at a leadership conference. We're all at a different phase of our leadership development. At the bottom, you're probably asking, can I do it? And some of you are asking, can I sustain it? And a small percentage of you are near the finish and you're asking, can I take this across the finish line? Can I transition this organization to its next leader? And then what's next for me? And in any situation, usually also with our students, 10% of you are seriously thinking about quitting, not wanting to pursue being a great leader. And even a larger percent of you are in desperate need of just a jolt of inspiration. And I hope this session is it. So the stakes are sky high. I always start with the permission to play values. And for Bill Hybels, he's got humility and respect. So we discussed that already in different scenarios. The permission to play are the basics. They're the non-negotiables of good leaders. So you can have everything else, but if you don't have humility and respect, then you don't have permission to play. And these two elements are foundational. So I want to talk about the intangibles of leadership. Because we're running a little bit short of time, I was going to say, we have a list of what, I'm a little bit over lists of what makes a great leader, but I want to talk about the intangibles of leadership. Leaders at the highest level of leadership possess subtle, more advanced traits of leadership than all its peers. It is these leadership intangibles that then set them apart. And we will unpack one of these aspects today that packs a huge punch, and is grit. Grit is why people with lesser talent and lesser IQ often outachieve their peers. Someone just said grit, Bill Hybels. Yes, it's that one. So one of the greatest predictors of success in any walk of life has to do with grit, which is defined as, yes? I'm sorry, talking? No? What is grit? Anybody? Grit is passion and perseverance over the long haul. Grit is unrelenting, long-term tenacity, steely determination demonstrated over decades. It's the willingness to utilize every last drop of human effort to move something ahead and then keep on expanding that time and effort until you cross the finish line. Gritty people don't play hurt or whimper or waver or quit, ever. They expect progress to be difficult, yet believe to the core of their being that they can overcome whatever obstacle stands in their way. I think I was blessed with an inordinate amount of grit. I might not, and I have to work on other leadership skills, but I was just laid in my mother's bed with a whole amount of grit. So I have a little story for you, The Little Engine That Could. It's a story about a long train of locomotive carts that's filled with toys for a village of small children who are toyless. What happens is that the locomotive realizes there's a small mountain between his current location and that of the children. The locomotive loses confidence and says, I'll never make it up the mountain. So I'll try to find a more powerful locomotive to take my place. So this locomotive approaches several larger locomotives, all of whom could have done the job quite easily, but none of them are willing. They all have excuses and they don't really care whether the kids on the other side of the mountain get their toys or not. Just as it all looks like all hope is lost, an undersized engine that was only ever designed to move empty rails, cart around the station, shows up and learns that all the kids on the other side of the mountain will have no toys unless a willing locomotive signs up for duty. And in a burst of passion, the little locomotive says, "I'll do it." All the other locomotives start mocking him. "In your dreams," they cry. Undeterred, the little engine backs up and after considerable effort starts getting the full cart at least to move on the flat surface. But the real test lies ahead and everybody knows it. There's a huge mountain separating the kids from the toys. I guess we all know what happens next. The little engine soon realizes that every bit of horsepower will be required, so it applies maximum effort for this challenge. As it approaches the huge incline, it's huffing and it's puffing and it's groaning and it's straining, and it begins the chant that everybody knows. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And with steely, unremitting determination, the little engine makes its way up the mountain. And the interesting part that most of us forgot, as it descends into the village, he says with a satisfying smile, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could. That's grit. It matters in life and especially matters in leadership. It's a differentiator. Those with ample amounts of it will predictably achieve more than those with less of it, regardless of talent and IQ. This has been observed all throughout history. If I look at Abraham Lincoln, we only know one side of Abraham Lincoln, but he's one of the most celebrated leaders in our history. But he has suffered bankruptcy twice in his 20s. Don't know if you know that. He was defeated for political office shortly thereafter, and right after that, the woman he loved and planned to marry, she died and caused him near emotional breakdown. He lost congressional races twice and was defeated in a race for US Senate at the age of 47. But Abraham had grit, and when finally selected at age 52, he tapped into that unremitting resolve and put an end to slavery and put the divided country together. Such is the power of grit. Nelson Mandela had it, Gandhi had it, Luther King had it as well. The question today is, do you have it? Because if you do, the chances of you getting the toys over the mountain is just so much higher than if you don't. It's one of those essential intangibles of leadership. Now, if you're curious to know how gritty you are, there is a grit assessment you can take. It's free, or you can do the charged version. You can get a grit score and you can compare your grit score to others. So you can just look for, don't do it now, Bill Hybels' grit assessment. The bigger question is, can grit be developed? The answer is good and it's bad. Yes, grit can be developed in anybody who wants it. The bad news is the arch enemy of grit is ease. So if your parents turned over heaven and earth to make your life easy and challenge-free and stress-free, they did you no favors regarding grit. Grit development demands difficulty. It demands a series of various sized mountains to pull the train over, so that when you get to the top, after much effort, you can say, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could. That sets you up better from a confidence perspective for your next mountain. Grit grows over time. You have to prove yourself that you can overcome an obstacle with tenacity and perseverance, and that grows grit. Bill Hybels tells the story of his son wanting a dog more than life itself. And after a while, Bill relented and got him a dog. At some point, he decided the dog must be outside more, so he bought a 20-inch stake that had to be driven into the hard-packed soil outside his house. He says to his son, your dog, your job. And after 3 or 4 half-hearted hammer strikes, the son says, Dad, it's too hard, you do it. But he says he decided to drive a different stake into his life, into his son's life. He said to his son, I've got all day to watch you do it. He knows the soil is hard, he knows it's tough, but it's his dog, so it's his job. And he said he doesn't care how long it takes or how hard it is. It involves He says it involved a tantrum or two and lots of tears. The stake was a grit developer. It made him stay with it. I made him stay with it until the task is done, Bill says. He sets many difficult tasks for his children. Both of them are score very high in the grit test, and he says one day they'll turn around and thank him. Okay, so the arch enemy of grit is ease. To grow grit, this very important tangible of leadership. Set yourself very difficult task. And here's that point. It's the one reason why elite leaders push themselves physically in some way. Rock climbing, aggressive kiteboarding, fearless windsurfing, because overcoming physical challenges is one way of developing grit. And developing grit in any other area of your life will flow over to other areas of your life as well. Another way at all levels that you can develop grit is by volunteering for extra work or extra tasks, and then demonstrate steely determination in carrying it out. Jack Welch used to say to his staff, when your supervisor gives you an assignment to do, whatever you do, don't just deliver the required result. Don't just deliver, over-deliver. And over-deliver every time. In our context, it's saying show grit. Okay, so one final observation about the power of grit. When senior leaders demonstrate grit in their day-to-day leadership, what I mean is when senior leaders push themselves hard, when they over-deliver in their own contribution to the collective effort, when they hang tough through a crisis, team members notice and they develop an appetite for more grit in themselves. They start to push themselves to the next level. Eventually, the whole organization just gets grittier. And gritty organizations are unstoppable. So the point is, if you care at all about getting the toys over the mountain, if you care at all about whatever mission your life is or your organization is about, you simply must develop grit. It's an absolute essential intangible of leadership. Okay, I'm spot on time. In conclusion, we have looked at what a natural born leader looks like: open-minded, offering advice, positive, good listener. We have seen that the way we work has changed and that we require a new style of leadership, one that doesn't hold on to power, one that collaborates, one that has empathy and is mentally strong. We've discussed level 5 leadership, how it's not about being bigger than life, but it's about being humble and having the will. And finally, we looked at grit, the importance of developing grit, how to develop grit by setting yourself challenging goals. And finally, how any staff member can display grit by taking on more work and over-delivering every time. I really hope you enjoyed this session. I will be grateful to learn which elements you enjoyed the most or found most useful. If you can use the chat function to tell me the one thing you've learned or you will try to apply, or something that you didn't know, or something that you really, really liked out of the session, then I will be most grateful. Assuming I haven't been on mute this whole time. Anybody still with me? Did you like grit? Did you like level 5 leadership? Thank you, Mark. Mark loved level 5 leadership. Sahwadi loved grit. Mishan loves grit. Grit, isn't grit just amazing? Just sheer determination. We hear grit, level 5 leadership. Aww. Somebody said, I think I'm going to take some dangerous sports. Excellent. Thank you, guys.